Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I'm Grandmaster Shaymin, and today we are going to continue on with Fatal 12. In the last episode, things got really crazy as the main character debated whether or not to tell her good friend Naomi about all of the stuff involving the divine selection process. And what happened is, now we have gone on a train, taken a couple of stops, and gone to a park alone with Naomi, with the possibility of potentially revealing the secret of this ordeal. And I'm a little worried about this. I feel like that, in most cases, there's some great disturbance if you tell anyone about the trouble going on. You know what I mean? There's so many stories where, you can't tell anybody about this or else you'll die yourself, something like that. But kind of like a ReZero thing, where the main character, Subaru, wants to try and tell all of the girls about the fact that when he dies, he respawns, but he can't do that because whenever he does, it feels like he is going to die. It feels like that is what should happen if the main character does try to confide in Naomi, but there's no guarantee that anything will actually happen, especially considering that there's really no fallout. If the main character tells anyone about it, worst case scenario, they'll forget when she's eliminated anyway. But it does make it kind of confusing. A lot of things make it kind of confusing, especially because we found out that the person who caused the explosion on the train is actually part of the divine selection process, which, what's confusing to me is, based on what just happened, the guy that had a heart attack, and it said 2 weeks ago he had a heart attack in his office, and it was just revealed on the news now, right? But if, say, this chick gets eliminated, then the entire event of the exploding train will actually have happened. But because both of their deaths were caused at well, not caused, but happened in the same instance, even though it looks like the main character died to people rather than, it looks like multiple people, according to what Naomi said. We also heard about Naomi's dreams in the last episode. It's kind of interesting to wrap your head around. I like this visual novel quite a bit, but also it leaves me with a lot of questions but it's more because of some of the things that have not been explained yet, as well as some of the things about the divine selection process that weren't really explained well, in my opinion. But moving on now to this talk here. There's an entrance fee, but it's fairly inexpensive. One of the biggest parks in Tokyo, and was apparently an old samurai's garden back in the day. I'm not sure why, but it was restructured to resemble a mix between Japanese, English, and French parks. That's oddly specific. Why would you... what? There are normally tourists all over the place, but it's a lot less busy on weekdays. That makes an ideal change for an ideal place for a change of pace. I came here a lot when I was a kid. There was one place in particular that I really enjoyed visiting. Is this where you wanted to come? It's nice, isn't it? There's a small bench in the middle of the garden. We sit down there and take in the surroundings and the clock tower-esque building in the distance. Few buildings in Shinjuku stand out as much as that one. Part of me wants to say it's a building for a telephone company. You don't know what the building is, but it stands out. I feel like you'd know what the building is. The sound of the greenery whispering in the wind is nice and relaxing. Huh. An odd sensation washes over me out of nowhere. It makes me wonder whether or not I've actually been here before. But I'm sure of it. I've been here plenty of times as a kid. Rinka? Sorry, I'm fine. I take a deep breath and get ready to tell her all about divine selection. Is Miharu gonna come in? Oh my god, she's actually gonna tell her all about this. There's no way. Miharu or somebody else has to jump in here. So where do I even begin? I guess it doesn't matter when it'll sound like I'm making stuff up anyway. Yep, it's gotta be. Miharu? Oh. Rinka. She utters my name in a painful manner once I finish telling her everything. Holy shit! She started to get teary-eyed midway, but I kept going. I doubt she would want me to stop without painting her the whole picture. She nodded attentively from beginning to end, as if to reassure me that the decision to tell her was the right one. I knew something was weird all along. You were speaking fluent English despite not knowing the language at all. When we first talked about that book, everything started ever since then. But you're alive, Rinka. I can tell you that as much as fact. So we actually told Naomi everything, and nothing's happened. Nobody's died because of a heart attack or anything. Interesting, but now we've dragged Naomi into this situation, saying that she takes my hand in hers. The surface of her hand is cold, but I can feel her warmth underneath. There's no doubt the same goes for me. The warmth serves as proof that I'm alive. Yeah, I know, but, well, it seems like that shouldn't be the case. I'm sorry for saying what I did without understanding the situation you're in. It's not like I could expect you to, considering I never mentioned it. She doesn't doubt what I have to say for a second. Chances are that my cause of death lines up with her dream so much that she has no choice but to believe it. It gives her an answer as to why she's having the dream too, although it does not resolve the situation at hand. Not only are you in this situation, but Miharu as well. I wasn't sure whether or not I should tell her about Miharu, but I decided to do so in the end. On the one hand, there's no point in trying to keep certain things to myself. On the other, I simply gave in to the desire to lighten my own burden. It's so weird. I feel like I've been choosing Miharu's route this entire time. But here we are with Naomi. I want to go down Miharu's route, but I don't know if I guess I've not made the right choices. What's more, she said she's prepared. She's referring to... Oh. Was that Naomi? Oh, fuck. She's referring to Miharu's statement regarding her own participation. She's willing to give her life for mine. I wouldn't be able to say the same thing if I was in her shoes. Same here. I don't want Miharu to die, but I don't have it in me to willingly let her make it through either. 2 weeks have passed now, and I'm still not sure what I should do. I don't think you can be blamed for that. Another breeze blew through, catching our hair. It's a surprisingly cold breeze for this time of year. Man, I hate when the music stops. I feel like something big's gonna happen. I can see the sunset off in the distance. I make sure blue and orange on the horizon somehow resembles a wavering heart to me. Miharu is very strong-hearted, isn't she? Yeah, she is. She's the complete opposite of me. She knows exactly what she wants to do, whereas I'm sitting here unable to make any sort of decision. She might have already gotten started on gathering info based on the cards she's received. In fact, I'm certain she has. The determination in her eyes makes it apparent. Her attitude at school isn't any different than usual, but that's just further proof of her resolve. There's no doubt she's doing as much research as she can elsewhere, and she's doing it all for my sake. God, I love Miharu. That takes some serious commitment. She is such a cool character so far in this I keep wanting to say show. It's a visual novel. So it's kind of that weird in-between of an actual animated show and a novel, or a light novel probably in this case. I'd say that all the time she's been spending at work lately was just a front for said research, but that'd be overthinking things. There's something she's been doing for a while now. Thanks for hearing me out, Naomi. I feel a bit better having talked to someone about this. I still don't know how I should approach the whole situation, but for now, I'll just focus on going about life as usual a bit longer. Saying that, I get up off the bench, or I try to, but Naomi stops me by grabbing my sleeve. Can you wait for 5 minutes? I've come to a personal conclusion myself. A personal conclusion? She nods firmly in response. I want to help you, Rinka. Things can't continue like this. It may be somewhat selfish of me to say when I'm not in your shoes, but you need to face reality. You can't keep running from it. Running from it? It's not that I'm struggling to make a choice. It's simply avoiding it altogether. Naomi makes sure to be as frank as possible with her words, and they turn the entire world upside down. The reality that I've been running from, my responsibility to choose whether to live or die, finally sinks in. Before I know it, the sky has dyed entirely in orange. At the very least, I can help you gather information. I'll even be able to meet those other participants face to face since they don't know who I am. Most importantly, though, I can help you share the burden you've been pressured with. Naomi, man, that was such a cool. Naomi's cool. I'm not gonna lie. Damn, they're both really good characters. I like Miharu a lot, but Miharu hasn't done anything. Also, Naomi is out here pushing herself, and for someone that is obviously as shy and reserved as she is, that takes some serious guts, and I gotta say that she's doing better than Miharu in that case. Her words are filled to bursting with resolve. That's an oddly phrased sentence. There's nothing we could do to change the fact that it could come down to either you or Miharu making it through. But if you continue like this, things may end before that. She's got a point. Now, hey Naomi, there's something I just realized myself. She turns to face me, waiting for my follow-up comment. Having the truth put in front of me, that makes me realize what I'm most afraid of. I'm terrified of what I have to do to make it through this. Not only Miharu, but I also have to eliminate others to ensure my own survival. Is my life worth casting aside the lives of others for? I'm not too sure about that. I mean, I don't even know my own regret. I've seen the expressions of those who were mere moments away from being elected. I wouldn't describe them as sad, angry, or even accepting. They simply looked powerless in the face of what was going to happen. Those were the faces of people who died without being able to fulfill what they wanted out of life. Meanwhile, so I'm guessing... So, first off, I agree with Rinka in this case. I would have a hard time saying that my life was worth more than any of the other 11 people that were in the situation with me. It would be very, very difficult to accept that. Not to mention, again, you have to put yourself out there because you have to try and eliminate other people, or else, nothing's gonna happen, right? And what's interesting though is that no one knows what would happen if nobody eliminates anybody, or no one nominates anybody. That I feel like is an interesting topic. Like if they all agreed on, how about let's just not do anything and have us all just go along with our lives as usual, then maybe nothing would happen. But I doubt the goddess would let that happen. So it'd be interesting to see what she would do in order to force people into eliminating other people. But, what was the other? Oh, I think that Miharu's regret is probably not telling Rinka that she loves her. That would probably make sense. Meanwhile, I'm not sure that I have that much invested into anything to begin with. That's why why part of me feels like my life isn't worth being saved in exchange for the others. It's not enough that people like myself and Miharu want you to live. I can't say for sure whether or not eliminating others for your own sake is the right thing to do. What I can say, though, is that I don't want you to die, no matter what. If the idea of committing that sin scares you, then at the very least, share half of that responsibility with me. Naomi. She wouldn't talk to herself. Naomi, why would you go this far? Why would she go this far for my sake? Before everything was undone, you chose to prioritize my life over your own. That's the kind of person you are. But that's irrelevant now. I'm willing to go this far because it's for you, Rinka. That's all there is to it. That's weird. Why do I want to cry now? She turns her gaze towards the sky, desperately trying to fight back the tears that are ready to fall at any moment. That was a pretty neat speech. I'm not gonna lie, Naomi. Not to mention, oh my god, you're crying. It's so sad. It's a weird time to have thought like this, but I can't help but consider how vast the sky truly is. Naomi has nothing but praise for the coffee I make. She made me realize that I'm avoiding reality. That and a number of other important things. Promise me you won't do anything dangerous. Huh? The tears have started to stream down her face by the time I say that. I can't die from anything other than the elimination during divine selection, but the same doesn't apply to you. Promise me that you won't do anything that'll put you at risk. Unable to get the words out, she bites her lower lip and nods her head. That being said, allow me to formally ask you, Naomi, will you please help me get through the divine selection? There's no need for you to be so formal. I extend my right hand to her, which she takes. Her nervousness melts away, the beaming smile she gives me afterwards. Her tear-stained cheeks serves as a nice contrast to that. You really are a crybaby, aren't you? And you could do with learning that it's okay to cry. No need to tease me. Her tears don't stop flowing, even though she's all smiles. Just then, the announcement comes that it's almost time for the park to close for the day. I take the opportunity to tell Naomi that I'll see her tomorrow, and then I make my way home. So that was intense. I'm not gonna lie, Naomi won some style points with me on that one. That was a pretty neat segment that they put together. It's weird though, because I feel like I've been doing my best to go down Miharu's route, and I still haven't drawn any flags, you know? When I get back, I open up Lion House for a bit. After messaging Naomi during break time, I decide to keep the store closed tomorrow so we can focus on gathering intel and organizing our thoughts. I figure hitting up the library will be a good idea since we all have access to newspapers and the like, but considering I still don't know where to start, I decide it's best for us to meet up there first. We don't need to worry about keeping quiet there at least. I'm also sure that I made sure to ask Naomi not to tell anyone about this. Part of me considers telling Mao at first, since we're close friends, but considering she's known Miharu for far longer than Naomi, I decide it's best not to. Fair enough. I mean, Mao would probably try and convince Miharu to prioritize her own life or something, you know? Which makes sense why Mao is so close with Miharu over the course of this visual novel. It'd be far too much of a burden for her to bear, and the last thing I want is to ruin the relationship the three of us have right now. Phew. Thinking back on everything that happened so far, get ready to close up shop for the day. Barely any customers have come around, so I have to clean up a few things. I clean up those things, carry the signboard and some plants from outside, and put out the trash. The door looks a bit dirty too, so I make sure to wipe it down. While I'm wiping it, I hear footsteps heading my way. I don't find them any mind, considering it's not rare for people to pass by at this time of night. But they stop right in front of the store. Sorry, but we're closed for the... Thinking it was a customer, I turn around and inform them we're closed. But I stop mid-sentence when I see the woman to whom the footsteps belong. The moment I stand up straight, she grabs me by the shoulders, pushes me against the door, and then into the store. What? Oh my god. She's crying and she doesn't... So you're Shishimi Rinka. Her words came out loud and rapid. Her voice sounds like her throat is really ready to explode. Her first impression makes it seem desperate, but I'd say she's more anxious than anything else. That's why her shouting actually helps me to approach the situation with heightened composure. You're number 8, I take it. Rather than answering her questions, I opt to shoot one right back at her. I don't know her name, but I recognize the face. She's one of the people I've seen in the dream world. Composed as I may seem, it's not enough to keep my nerves calm. I can feel myself working up a cold sweat. Even the most minor thing here could act as a hint for her, so I need to watch what I say. Answer me! She slams her hand on the door, closing the distance between us even more, and yet I'm not afraid, mainly because I keep in mind why she's so anxious in the first place. The only reason she's asking me because she's not entirely sure that I am who she thinks I am. Meanwhile, number 12 gained her name card from the woman he eliminated in the first round, if memory serves. Answer me, I've got your card. I know you're Shishimi Rinka. I would lie, man. I'd be like, ma'am? Who the fuck are you? Well, actually, she's probably seen the main character before, so I'd be like, what? I don't doubt that I'd be panicking if I was number 11 or 12, if it was the number 11 or 12 asking. But it's the same dread I feel when competing with people like them that allows me to remain calm here and now. Compared to them, she looks like your average woman, slender and pretty, although you can tell she looks a bit overtired. There's no doubt she's getting little sleep. She's wearing what I believe to be a shawl atop a hospital gown. Tell me, what's your cause of death? What's your regret? My silence makes her all the more agitated. Was it suicide, an illness, school, love? Answer me! You need to calm down. My patient starts to wear thin, which causes me to place my hands on her shoulders and shove her away from me. I must have pushed her a bit too hard because she stumbles backwards. She falls and lands hard on the concrete. Sorry. I apologize without thinking. Showing sympathy to other participants, my enemies in other words, probably isn't the best idea. Are you okay? I ask, but receive no answer. All she does is stare at the ground and mutter something to herself. Following that, she collapses under her own weight. Oh, hey, are you alright? I need to call an ambulance. No, it's fine. Don't call an ambulance. I can get by myself. Fine. Fine is the last thing that comes to mind when I look at you. Just don't. Her sentence trails off there. Judging by her steady breathing, she seems to have fallen asleep as opposed to having passed out. I spot the name on the hospital she was admitted to written on the hem of her gown. It's only a 10-minute walk from here. Fine. She doesn't want me to get an ambulance for whatever reason, but I can't leave her here. Fortunately, she's rather light, so I opt to give her a piggyback ride. It's tougher than I thought it'd be. After I lock up the store, I proceed to the hospital. Nice initiative, Rinka. Gotta say. When I arrive, the nurse I speak to showers me with praise. It's hardly surprising. I think most people would praise a high schooler who had obviously exhausted herself by carrying a patient all the way back to the hospital in the middle of the night. The nurse wastes no time taking her away, so I guess she's really patient. She really is a patient here. Thanks to this, I managed to learn her name as well. Kamebuchi Kaiko. While she's always had a frail disposition, things have gotten worse for her once she gave birth. I don't pry any deeper, but I doubt they would have told me much more. The only reason they told me as much as they did was to make sure I knew who it was that I helped out in the first place. Actually, shouldn't that give me a new card? Parker mentioned that we'd obtain cards whenever we discovered vital pieces of information in the real world. Right, I need the book. Chances are I didn't get one because I didn't have it with me. I'm aware of its importance, but I tend to leave it behind since it's heavy. Fair enough. Either way, I should leave, considering visiting hours have long passed. Curious as I am about Keiko, I make my way back home. Once I return to my home and get ready for bed, I take a seat on the table which my book rests. Well, this is new. Little bits of light are pouring out from the book's pages. Needless to say, this is the first time I've seen it happen. In the real world, no less. I take a moment to prepare myself, and then I open it up. Whoa! The moment I do, light begins to rise from the book itself. What's going on? All I can do is watch as it eventually congregates to one spot, almost 2 feet above my table. It eventually molds itself into a rectangular shape. To be more specific, the shape of a card. Once the transformation is complete, the light dissipates. The card floats in midair for a brief moment before it quietly lays itself to rest atop the book. So this is how new cards are made. I can't hide my surprise over witnessing something like that happening in the real world. Something similar happened in the dream world, but it's a whole different experience when it happens in your own room. I pick up the newly formed card. It's exactly the same as the others I have in terms of shape and make. The only difference is the content written on it. VIII, name, Kamebuchi Kaiko. As expected, it's Kaiko's name card. That's all, though. I still don't know her cause of death or regret. She was hospitalized after giving birth, right? In that case, it has to be related to that. My first ailment that comes to mind from childbirth is... Ouch, my head starts to hurt all of a sudden. It doesn't take long for me to realize why either. It's just because I remembered how desperate Keiko looked. The way that she was acting earlier proved that her regret ran deeper than I could comprehend. What I'm doing right now is akin to walking all over that. The more I try to imagine the circumstances of her death, the worse the pounding in my head becomes. That's when I remember Naomi's proposition to shoulder the burden along with me. I'm not prepared to handle this alone quite yet. Today's done a good job of showing me just how weak I am. Rather than thinking about this anymore, I turn the lights off and choose to sleep instead. God, that's rough though. You know, especially with something like that happening, with how desperate she is, and you know, being hospitalized. You know, it'd be so hard to be like, well, I mean, I have to finish the job. I basically have to kill you again. And I don't even have to do all that much. I just have to figure out information on you, and you're gone from existence. So that's kind of wild. I assume that she probably died due to childbirth. More than likely, I mean, there's several possibilities of what you could die from while giving birth to a kid. So that one's going to be a little bit difficult to figure out. You'd have to probably look it up on the internet. So they both said good morning. I noticed Miharu getting ready for classes as usual when I arrive at school. Seeing her reminds me of the realization I came to yesterday, which prompts me to say something odd to Mao. Miharu is really strong-hearted, isn't she? You think? I'd say it's quite the opposite. Her voice and tone are lower than usual. Miharu. Huh? Anyway, let's get back to the daily grind. She returns to her usual self right away, almost as if to avoid continuing with that topic. That was a little nudge at you, Rinka. Come on. When school is ended, I meet up with Naomi before heading over to the library on our way back to Lion House. Fortunately, the library is only 5 minutes from Lion House, and on the very same path I took to get to the hospital last night. I made sure to fill her in on the details on what happened last night as we make our way there. Her first reaction is to express her concern about me. She crinkles her nose when I mention that Keiko seems to have had a rougher go at life than I have, but then sighs in relief afterwards. Pardon. Once at the library, we gather up some books regarding pregnancy. Part of me doesn't want to at first, but we'll be painting a rather dubious image of ourselves. Then again, this isn't the time to be worried about that. Having gotten what we need, we make our way back to the Lion House and spread the books out on one of the tables. I feel like that's gonna be a little awkward. You grab like 8 books on pregnancy, and you're two girls, and you're like, BAM! The librarian's like, you guys are preparing, aren't you? Jeez. Alright, they're also in high school, which makes it even more awkward. He's like, no, you're too young. Alright. Let's see whether or not these have information regarding illnesses or complications that could be linked to the cause of her death. Right. She announces the plan with seemingly little issue. I can tell she's forcing herself to act composed. Normal people like us shouldn't have any reason to investigate someone's death like this. It doesn't help that it feels like we're digging into someone's private life without consent. That's one of the reasons behind my headache last night. Not to mention that, in this case, it's about someone who's still alive. I pick up one of the books closest to me. While thinner than the card book, it's packed full of text. I probably shouldn't try my hand at a book like this when I know absolutely nothing about medicine. Thinking that, I pick up another one only to reach the same conclusion. The only stuff I read other than manga are novels, so ideally there'll be something a little simpler among all these. As I look over, it leads me to repeating the same scenario over and over in my mind. Rinka, what's wrong? Are you not well versed when it comes to books? She's using the books in her hand to obscure her face from below the eyes, which are glued to me. She's got the book up and she's like staring at Rinka, who picks up a book. It's like, that's a lot of big words. Bam. That's a lot of big words too. Bam. That's a lot. Oh my goodness. Not really, but I mean, aren't these a bit too difficult? You should have said so when we were at the library. I could have picked out some of the simpler ones. that makes it pretty clear that I left Naomi in charge of picking which books to get. I figured that'd be best considering she's a bit of a bookworm. I take it you're not big on studying then? I nod my head after a brief hesitation. I wouldn't say I'm bad at studying, but there's no point in putting up a front, especially when my grades tell a different story. I'll give it a shot though. Can't let you do all the work for my sake. I pick up another book and peruse through the table of contents. Naomi hides part of her face behind the book again, but I can see how focused her eyes are on its contents. 2 hours later, I feel my concentration vanish into thin air. Let's take a break. Ellipses. Naomi? Well, what is it? Dang, your concentration level is off the charts. How about a quick break? Oh, that sounds like a good idea. She closes her book after I make my offer. I guess she's finished reading that one too, which makes for a total of 3 so far. She finished 3 books in 2 hours? I mean, she's probably, I would hope she's skimming. I mean, like legitimate scientific books on pregnancy and the possible complications of pregnancy, I could imagine being not only lengthy, but difficult to read quickly. But yet, she's knocked out 3 of them in 2 hours. Damn. Meanwhile, I'm still stumbling through my first. The difference in reading speeds between someone who reads often and someone who doesn't is rather striking. I mean, someone who reads often should not be able to legitimately read 3 books in 2 hours. Like, that is too fast. Skimming, like a really brief skim, yes, I could see that, but like, damn. I brew up some coffee for the both of us and bring it over to the table. Thank you very much. I feel like this is the first time in a while that I've gotten to have some of your coffee. You might be right. I've spent so much time teaching her how to make coffee that I actually haven't had the opportunity to make some for her myself. It's always nice watching Naomi drink the coffee I make, considering how much she seems to enjoy it. So, managed to find anything worthwhile? I picked up on something myself, in truth, but asking Naomi's input first seems like the best idea. I did. First of all, it turns out there's an extremely low mortality rate for women during childbirth. The book I've been reading says the same thing. Oh, the book I've been reading says the same thing, based on a study from 2014. Jesus. Only 3 out of 100,000 mothers died while giving birth. I assume Keiko is in her 20s or 30s. Even if it's the latter, there's only a 0.003% chance of it happening to her. For comparison's sake, a person is much more likely to have been involved in some sort of fatal traffic accident than that. I mean, fatal traffic accidents happen all the time. Like, someone dies of a traffic accident, like, daily. If you had 100,000 mothers, which you're most likely talking about Japan alone in this case, because there were definitely way more than 100,000 mothers in the entire world. So it's probably a Japanese study. So 3 mothers out of 100,000. I mean, I could see that. That's definitely something that I would believe to be a real statistic. Especially considering how modern medicine is. It's just amazing. Yeah, still though. This stuff actually caught my attention while reading because it would be relevant to me at some point in my future. Would it? What's the guy you're planning on getting knocked up by? Because I'd prefer you not get knocked up and just take Miharu. Just take Miharu as your wife. Come on. You could do it. This is 2018. Seems like Naomi read about the same study. You'd think we were revising test materials together or something. Doesn't the fact that there are so few cases make it easier for us to determine the cause, though? Oh, that's what I said. Or Rinka said. I thought the same myself, but how much information do we need to be able to turn it into a card to begin with? The cards I have that detail causes of death only say stuff like fire, so I assume you needed You just need a general idea. I see. You mentioned that the process involves giving thoughts a tangible form, didn't you? Yep, but it's not like I know how it actually works. In that case, it's likely that you'll believe in your thoughts for them to be considered for tangible form. Dude, Naomi is so smart. Look at that. Now the conversation's getting a bit complicated, I take a moment to mentally sort out all the info. The process behind making new cards involves giving information, thoughts rather, a tangible form. Parka explained that much herself. How does one distinguish the piece of information is correct and turn that into a card then? Sorry, I should have explained it in simpler terms. Basically, I'm curious about the circumstances at which a card is created. For example, would one be made if you happened to correctly guess the cause of death or regret while having a casual conversation with someone? Or do you need to state the details loud and clear with certainty, like one would be presenting evidence in a legal trial? Now I get what you mean. I cast my mind back to these past 2 weeks. I'm not the most chatty person, but I've definitely had a good number of conversations during that time. Chances are good that I've discussed things related to relevant information, so by that logic I should have some extra cards already. And yet, yesterday was the first time I obtained a new card. In that case, it's probably the latter scenario that's required in order to make new cards. I feel like it's the latter myself. If the former were the case, one could likely read through an entire dictionary and hit upon everyone's cause of death and regret. Yeah, that doesn't sound very thrilling. I'm sure people would resort to such a method when they know their lives are on the line. That serves to remind me of how desperate Keiko looked. I could tell she had a specific force driving her. Knowing that, chances are high that she read all kinds of stuff if that meant possibly attaining cards. It's the same reason behind why you can't obtain a card detailing your own cause of death, I believe. We need something more concrete than your hazy memory in my dream. So in the end, it was all up to me remembering the exact details of what happened that day. I can't see myself doing that today, at least. The fact that it's yet to come back to me probably means I need something specific to trigger my memories. I pushed those thoughts away and Naomi back to the topic at hand. This is just my personal conjecture, but it seems that blood loss is the most common cause of death during pregnancy, meaning the same would apply to Keiko. Knowing that's not enough, is it? I need to understand the precise details that led to its occurrence in the first place. The lack of any new card materializing proves that. Books alone probably won't give us all the answers then. How about I pay her a visit? Then again, I'd probably get kicked out first. I'm well aware of how my hair causes me to stand out. Oh. What is it? Well, I said we should take a break, but this hardly counts as one, huh? I gotta hand it to you. You're really reliable when it counts. I'm glad to hear it. I say that, but I can tell she's pushing herself pretty hard. It's clear from the way she's speaking that she's more nervous than usual. The same goes for me as well. There's no way we could have a happy chat about someone's possible cause of death. True that. However, it's not getting a headache like when I tried to do this on my own. Her being here to shoulder part of the burden really does make things easier to bear. Now the issue is how we go about digging deeper. So we haven't had an opportunity to get the flags from Miharu, but Naomi is just here. Like, we're having all of these flags triggered with Naomi, and it looks like we're just driving down Naomi's route right now. I mean, I really like Naomi, though, so, I mean, I'm not, like, too disappointed, but I like Miharu a lot, and I'm really curious about her, especially since we don't know her name, her actual name. Oh, I forgot that I brought some sweets with me. I didn't make these myself, though. She's saying that she produces some chocolates, which I happily partake of. The sweet sensation that spreads throughout my body is almost enough to make me shiver with joy. You can't beat a good dose of sugar. That is, they do say it's good for your brain. My mama always brings me some when I'm studying. What is it? I just realized a simple solution. If we want accurate info, then I should go and speak with her family. Isn't it a bit dangerous? Risky, sure, but there's a lower chance of me being caught than you. I'll make sure to go in plain clothes, since you carried Keiko to the hospital in your school uniform. Wouldn't she have asked them not to reveal anything about her? I'm fairly certain an adult like her would have reservations about bringing up the dream world to others. If anything, she'd advise them to keep quiet without giving any specifics. She has a point. I had no issue telling her everything, but there's no way I'd tell one of our teachers, for example. It'd probably be fine with telling my gram, but definitely not my parents if they were around. That goes double if I were Keiko's age. I promise not to do anything dangerous, so please leave this to me. I'm more worried about your acting skills. Oh, please don't be so blunt. She once again tucks her face behind the book, then pops part of it back out to speak to me after a moment. I'll do my best, though, especially when it's for your sake. You really are reliable, aren't you? As for when I should go, I'd say this weekend is my best bet. How so? Her family is likely to visit her at night during the week. In fact, they might not even be able to visit at all if it gets too late. Meanwhile, her husband is at the very least should stop by during the weekend. It's best off doing this as soon as possible, so I'll aim for this Saturday. Got it. I'm coming with you, though. I'll hide somewhere nearby so you can scream if anything happens, and I'll come get you. She nods her head in response, understanding that I won't back down. We try to discuss other possibilities regarding her death after that, but it basically turns into a study session about pregnancy. After walking Naomi to the train station, I make my way back to Lion House. Alright, so that's a pretty good stopping point, so thank you all for watching this episode. Make sure you click that like button down below, because you already know your support is greatly appreciated. And let me know in the comments your thoughts on Fatal 12, as well as hitting that subscribe button, so that way you can be prepared for future content and get updates. So we'll see you next time.